What if the most iconic building in history was never meant to last? What if its destruction was actually its destiny, a sacrifice that carved its name into eternity? Welcome to Ancient Echoes, where today we aren't just looking at ruins. We are resurrecting them. Using the power of artificial intelligence, we are going to walk the halls of 10 legendary buildings that were destroyed, standing inside their walls as they existed in their prime, moments before they vanished forever. But before we step through the gates of history, imagine standing in the center of Rome. It is the year to 1780, and you are looking up at a statue so massive, so audacious, that its thumb is the size of a man. This is the Colossus of Nero, a 100-foot-tall bronze behemoth that once guarded the entrance to the Domus Aurea, yet, despite its size, it was merely a decoration, a footnote to the real marvel that stood a mile away. We often think of ancient buildings as static, silent stones, but they were alive. They were political statements, symbols of power, and when that power faded, they were looted, burned, or simply swallowed by the earth. Our first stop on this resurrection tour forces us to confront the arrogance of ambition. We are going to the heart of the Roman Forum, not to see the temples we know, but to witness the tabularium, the massive record hall that held the laws of the Republic. The problem isn't that it was destroyed. The problem is that we think we know what it looked like. The agitation is that for centuries, historians have relied on fragmented text, imagining a dusty archive. But the reality, the AI reveals it was a marble-clad fortress of bureaucracy with vaulted ceilings that would make a cathedral blush. Suddenly, a pattern interrupt. Forget Rome. We are teleporting to the other side of the empire, to the edge of the known world. We are standing on the coast of Alexandria, in Egypt, watching the sunrise glint off the polished white marble of the lighthouse, one of the 7 wonders. You can feel the salt spray on your face. But we aren't looking at the lighthouse itself. We are looking at the statue of Poseidon that stood atop it, a bronze titan gripping a trident, using the sun to flash signals to ships 30 miles out. The Zeigarnik effect tugs at your mind. How did a building designed for light become the center of a mystery so dark? You see, the lighthouse stood for 1,500 years, surviving earthquakes that crumbled entire cities, but it wasn't nature that ultimately struck it down. It was the ambition of a sultan in the 14th century who decided he needed a fortress. He dismantled the ancient wonder stone by stone, building his fort with the very blocks that once guided Cleopatra's ships. We are walking through that fort now, touching the recycled granite, realizing we are standing inside a ghost. Back to the air, back to the AI reconstruction. We fly over the Mediterranean and land in Constantinople, the heart of the Byzantine Empire. The year is 532 AD. The city is on fire. This is the Nika riots, and we are watching the original Church of the Holy Apostles burn. This wasn't just any church. It was the burial place of emperors. Constantine himself rested here. The problem. The building you see in history books is a later version. The agitation is that the original, the one soaked in the blood of the founding of Christianity, is a complete blank. We have no drawings. The AI reconstructs it from tax records and travel diaries. It was a cruciform shape, but not the heavy, dark stone you imagine. It was a meadow of marble inside, with columns of porphyry, the purple stone reserved only for royalty. You can hear the echo of the riots outside, the screaming mob, while inside, the air is thick with incense and the desperate prayers of the last Romans. This is the tension. The building is beautiful, serene, eternal, but as you stand there in this digital recreation, that the mob is about to break the doors down. Another pattern interrupt. We are moving forward in time, and the architecture is changing. We are now in Baghdad during the golden age of Islam. Around the year 900 AD, before us stands the round city, the original city of peace, designed by Caliph Ahmed. It was a perfect circle, a mile in diameter, with massive walls and 4 gates pointing to the corners of the earth. In the center there was a palace topped with a green dome, and atop that dome, a statue of a horseman holding a lance. The open loop here, they say the horseman's lance would always point toward whatever enemy threatened the city. Was it a compass, a weather vane, or just a myth? We walk through the markets inside the walls, the air thick with the scent of spices and the sound of scholars debating. This wasn't just a city. It was a machine designed to filter the chaos of the world into knowledge, but like all things, the round city was swallowed. The Mongols erased it so completely that for centuries, historians doubted it ever existed. But we are walking through it now. The AI allows us to touch the baked bricks, to look up at the horseman. He points east today. We know the Mongols came from the east. The building knew its fate before the people did. This is the soul of this journey. The stones. Remember, we leave the sand and move to the ice. We are in Northern Europe, standing before a structure made not of marble, but of wood. It is the 9th century, and we are at the doors of the Viking Hall at the legendary palace of the Sildon clan, the setting for the epic poem Beowulf. The problem is that this hall, Hero, was considered a myth. The agitation is that archaeologists found it, but finding the post holes doesn't tell you about the life inside. Our AI paints the walls with shields, weaves the air with smoke from the central hearth. You can hear the twang of a lyre and the roar of a chieftain's laughter. This hall was designed to intimidate, to show that the wild Northmen could build as grandly as any Roman. But the open loop in this story isn't about how it was destroyed. It's about what was destroyed with it. When this hall burned, it wasn't just wood that turned to ash. It was the entire oral history of a people, a library of sagas told in the firelight. The destruction of a building is the murder of memory. And speaking of murder, let's look at a building that was murdered in cold blood by politics. We are in Paris, but not the Paris of the Eiffel Tower. This is medieval Paris, and we are looking at the palace of the For centuries, it was the royal residence, connected to the Louvre, stretching for a quarter of a mile along the Seine. The problem, you've heard of the Louvre, but the Tuileries is just a garden now. The agitation is that it wasn't lost to war or time. It was deliberately dynamited in 1883. The AI stands us on the balcony. We see the ornate roofs, the statues in the niches. This was the home of kings and emperors. The French Revolution spared the building, but the Paris Commune of 1871 didn't. They set it on fire. And then 12 years later, the Third Republic, looking to erase any symbol of monarchy, voted to demolish the carcass. We watch as the wrecking balls swing, taking down 1,000 years of history to build a park. It feels like a crime scene. We need to break the pattern again. We are going vertical. We are going to New York City. 1908, we aren't looking at a skyscraper. We are looking at the original Pennsylvania station. This was the greatest architectural statement of the Gilded Age. It was a Roman bathhouse scaled up to hold trains. You walk into the main waiting room and your breath catches. It's not a train station. It's a temple to movement, to industry. The ceiling soars 150 feet above you. The granite columns are massive. The light streams through the glass. The open loop is a warning. Look at it. Love it. Because in 50 years, it will be gone. The problem was progress. The agitation was short-sighted, greed. In 1963, they started tearing it down, a decision so universally loathed that it birthed the historic preservation movement in America. We are standing in the waiting room, hearing the announcements for trains that will never leave, watching the ghosts of commuters from a century ago. This building wasn't destroyed by fire or sword. It was destroyed by a spreadsheet. As the wrecking ball swings in slow motion through the Pennsylvania station, we just walked. We freezed the frame. We have only covered 5 of these 10 legends. We have stood in the shadow of the Colossus, walked the halls of Hero, and watched the fires consume Constantinople. But the 5 that remain, they are the ones that defy logic. In the next part of this journey, we will travel to a mountain carved into a fortress, a library that held the secrets of the universe, and a palace made of pure white jade. The AI reconstructs the Church of St. Peter's, its tower rising above the market stalls. We walk the narrow streets, smelling the salt and the ale, hearing the arguments of merchants. But as we walk, the ground trembles slightly. A section of cliff collapses a mile down the coast. The people shrugged. It happens. But the open loop is that by 1328, the entire harbor will be gone. By 1700, 800 houses will be underwater. Today, divers explore the ruins beneath the waves, swimming through submerged graveyards where tombstones lie flat on the seabed. We stand in the church, listening to the priest deliver a sermon, knowing that in 50 years, this entire building will be a reef. We need to break the immersion before we drown. We rise through the waves, through the clouds, and land in the heart of Europe. Vienna, Austria, 1945. The city is in ruins. Smoke rising from 100 fires. But amidst the destruction, one building still stands relatively intact. The Judenplatz synagogue. This isn't its destruction. This is its life. The year is 1421. And we are inside during services. The synagogue is not just a place of worship. It is the spiritual heart of one of Europe's largest Jewish communities. The walls are painted with biblical scenes, the bimah is intricately carved, and the eternal lamp burns above the ark. The problem is that you cannot visit this synagogue today. The agitation is that it was deliberately destroyed during the Vienna Gesara of 1421, when the entire Jewish community was accused of host desecration and burned at the stake. The synagogue was torn down, and a church was built on its ruins to erase any memory. But the AI reveals what lies beneath the modern square. We walk through the medieval streets leading to the synagogue, past houses that will soon be empty, past families who will soon be ash. The Opelupi in 2000, archaeologists found the foundations, including a remarkable discovery, the mikvev, the ritual bath, still filled with They found the very steps that worshippers descended for purification. We walk down those steps now, the water cool against our ankles, feeling the weight of a community that existed exactly here on this spot and then was unmade. We leave Vienna as the flames begin to catch on the synagogue roof. We cannot watch. Instead, we travel east to the heart of Russia, Moscow, 1931. The skyline is dominated not by the Kremlin, but by the Cathedral of Christ the Savior, its golden domes blazing in the sun. This is the tallest Orthodox church in the world, built to commemorate the victory over Napoleon. We walk inside and the AI fills the space with incense and chants. The iconostasis rises 5 stories high, covered in gold leaf. The marble floors reflect the candlelight. The problem is that this building is living on borrowed time. The agitation is political. Stalin wants a palace of the Soviets, a 400-meter tall tower topped with a 100-meter statue of Lenin, a building so massive it would dwarf every skyscraper in the world. But the cathedral sits on the chosen spot. So on December 5th, 1931, they detonate the explosives. We stand in the square as the church crumbles, a cloud of dust and gold leaf rising over Moscow. The open lupi, they never built the palace. The foundations filled with water. The steel was melted for tanks in World War II, and the site became a swimming pool, the world's largest open-air swimming pool, filled with heated water where the altar once stood. We swim in that pool now, looking up at the sky through the steam, feeling the absurdity of progress. Another pattern interrupt, and the water freezes. We are in the desert. Iraq, 1258. The Tigris River runs black with ink, not water. This is Baghdad, the House of Wisdom, the greatest library the world had ever seen. But we aren't in the library. We are in the Mustansire Madrasa, a university built decades before Oxford, where medicine, astronomy, and philosophy were taught side by side. The AI reconstructs the courtyards, the fountains, the students arguing under palm trees. Scholars from China, India, and Spain exchange ideas in Arabic, Persian, and Greek. The problem is the horizon. Look east. See the dust. That isn't a sandstorm. That is the Mongol army, 200,000 horsemen, approaching with orders to destroy everything. The agitation is that when they take the city, they will throw so many books into the Tigris that the river will run black with ink, and a horse could cross the river walking on books. We stand in the courtyard, listening to a lecture on astronomy, knowing that in 1 week, every scholar in this room will be dead, every scroll burned, every idea lost. The open loop, they say one general, concerned that the stars might predict his defeat, ordered every astrolabe destroyed, but a librarian, knowing the end was coming, hid a chest of manuscripts in a well. 900 years later, that chest has never been found. We walk to the well in the courtyard, peering into the darkness, wondering if the knowledge is still there, waiting to be We must move, the Mongols are at the gates. We flee through time and space, landing in the Americas. Mississippi, 1200 AD. We are standing before Cahokia, the largest city north of Mexico, home to 20,000 people. Before us, Rizza's Monk's Mound, a 10-story earthen pyramid covering 15 acres. But we aren't climbing the mound. We're walking through the wood henge, a circle of massive cedar posts used to mark the soil. The problem is that we don't know what they called themselves. We don't know their language, their religion, their stories. The agitation is that by the time Europeans arrived, the city was empty, abandoned for reasons still debated. The AI reconstructs the Grand Plaza, filled with thousands of people for a ceremony. Dancers in elaborate regalia move to the rhythm of drums. The chiefs stand atop the mound, silhouetted against the sun. We are among them, feeling the earth shake with the stamp of feet, hearing the chants rise like smoke. The Opalupi at the center of the plaza. There was a structure made of woven mats, a temple that was periodically burned and rebuilt on the exact same spot. They found the post holes, layer after layer of ash and clay. Why did they burn their own temple? Was it sacrifice? Renewal? We walked to the spot where the fire would be lit, feeling the anticipation of the crowd, knowing that soon the mats will catch and the gods will be fed. As the flames rise at Cahokia, we pause. We have walked through 10 buildings, 10 moments of glory, 10 destructions. We have stood in the shadow of colossi, swum through sunken cathedrals, and watched libraries turn rivers black. But these are not just stories of loss. They are stories of memory. The AI that rebuilt them is our generation's well of forgotten manuscripts, our attempt to fish the knowledge from the Tigris before it sinks. You have been with us through every step, every column, every explosion. Now, the final open loop closes. These buildings are gone, but their echoes remain because we choose to hear them. The only question that matters now is whether you will help us find the next echo. Hit subscribe to Ancient Echoes right now, not as a passive click, but as an act of preservation. Like this video so the algorithm becomes an archaeologist, digging through the noise to find the signal. Share this video with someone who needs to understand that civilization is fragile, that every building is a breath away from becoming a memory. We are the memory keepers now. Until next time, walk gently through the ruins. You never know who is walking beside you.